How do you like my view, guys? Thought that was already hooked up, but I was wrong. Anyway, hi. Okay, just getting everything set up here. So, Bailithal, welcome. Okay. So we're looking at these extenders. I haven't used them. I don't even know how they work. We're going to see what we can do, though. Apparently, we can't add new GRP entries. So any new image ID that we implement will have to use the same GRP as something that's already defined in the game. But eventually we'll get that sorted out. It's obviously a pretty big deal, is being able to add a new GRP file. Trying to think if there's anything in particular that I've been waiting to implement but don't have like a version of yet or something. Like I already have the graphic for it, but it's not in there yet. Something like that. You know what I think we can do as a way to test this out? I think we can pop in the quarry, because I already had a placeholder graphic for that. So we'll say yeah. Oh yeah, for sure. I mean, look at this giant reference sheet that I've compiled to keep track of all the different IDs I've cannibalized. I'm no fan of it either. Now, Iquar has actually inadvertently supplied me with a way to take a look at some of the some of his stuff. And that is by me being able to pop into here, find his Sumace folder, and extract his text file. Or I can accidentally delete it and have to re-download it. That works too. How embarrassing. Iquar said that he updated it, but I don't think he reposted the link, so I'm going to have to go dig out his link. Man, some of the craps that we witnessed were pretty epic, I'm not going to lie. Oh, boy. Oh, that's right, I was going to look for... Perfect. Because I actually had done all of the stuff necessary for the... what's it called? I did everything for the timestamping of the Mapcraft VOD, but I forgot to actually publicate it. It appears you don't have the comments entry in the dropdown. And what's your... if you go to help and then about, what does your version say? Okay. Ah. Yeah, we have different versions. I shouldn't have been giving you that link from my phone, I guess. Oh, I'm glad that... Is that real? I just grabbed the link. Wow, it doesn't even give me... All right, well, you see where on that link, if there's a thing right here that says version 2.01. That's the one you're going to want to grab. I think iQuare actually uses the one that you're using, but I don't know how to help you with that one. So maybe keep both of them installed? I don't know. All right, so we're looking for... What's up, Meow? Yeah, no problem. Well, like the first link does tell you 64-bit, and I did say get 64-bit because that's what I thought you needed. Boy, was I wrong. Oh, we're gonna need some new iScript entries as well. So I can't fully implement this, but I can figure it out. So I'm mostly going to be doing a bit of Todd foolery over here, it seems. So if I go and I grab... Oh, maybe these files are already in the... Oh, cool. They already are in here. It doesn't look like all of them are, though. I'll go ahead and rip those there. Okay, nice. Perfect. See you later, Ultralisks. Thanks for trying to win my map. Sorry you got destroyed. Okay. We've added our first entry here. Pretty exciting stuff. I should mention that I intend to uncannibalize, regurgitate all of the entries that I've currently cannibalized. Once these extenders are up and running and everything's good with them. Oh, cool. That would be awesome. For sure. I'm down with that idea. I like the idea that Foca's just like angrily smashing his keyboard trying to win my psychotic mapcraft map. It is winnable. I could see a path to victory. You really just got to completely destroy one of them. All the debug appears to be unresponsive. Like when you launch it? Have you tried running it as admin? Have you tried turning it off and on again? Oh yeah, that's true. Amon is random. Random AI's Protoss, you're fucked. Just restart. Um, load successful and it's blank. Thinking. Yeah, same for units. That's weird. I guess some of these don't have any entries. Yeah, these bottom four don't. I guess Sprites doesn't either. Okay. Well. Alright, we at least have all this shit. Yeah. What? Okay. Weird that they would ship blank files there. That's very strange. Oh yeah, that reminds me. I should update people's mapcraft submissions, including my own. I'll do that real quick. I picked the wrong folder every single time. Classic. Call me classic. Okay. Also, I wrote my first C++ hook today this morning before starting Mapcraft. That was pretty cool. Hey, that sounds like the kind of vor fetishist campaign you might have experienced if the game was made by deviant artists. Oh wait, it was. Well, the game was. The art of the game. Oh yeah, I should take a look at what the buildings look like for these files. Oh, nice. Yeah, so if it's the A's, if the A's is the source of the crash, you'll get a lot of useful information, or potentially useful information. If GPTP is the source of the crash, you won't get as much useful information because it's not running, it's not a debug plugin. But if it's not A's, like if we make the determination that it's probably GPTP, I can swap them out so that A's is in release and GPTP is in debug, and we'll see where we go from there. What's up, Veek? Okay. I appreciate your help with that. Okay. Graphic turns. So we'll say 99. Okay. I probably wouldn't get very far trying to do music, but I would also watch the shit out of those streams anyway, just for the sake of being able to see what the process is like. Eidolon's been working on some trial run voice acting for the Cyprian, so with any luck, we'll be able to replace my old Stormborne era takes with some of his work. So I'm looking forward to that. He said he's also going to be looking to make the mod launcher. I don't know how long a process that will end up being, but once that's out, that's going to be super useful. To give you a sort of idea of what I have in mind for it, it's actually going to be a similar... It's going to have a function called hot launch. And the hot launch function is going to allow you to basically, like, similar to the test map button in the Warcraft 3 and Starcraft 2 editors, it'll immediately, like, with very, very little time, it's going to launch the mod with the mod exe that you've specified and the map that you've specified. And I would like it to work with Melee as well, where you set up the lobby beforehand, and then the host hits the button and everybody gets launched. That would be ideal, but I'm not sure if that'll work. What's up? How are you doing? I have checked out your Pronogo channel. Dude, what a name you have. Do people actually fall for these? What a bunch of pranksters. Okay. So we've done that. Well, yeah, once that tool is ready, we'll be in it, man. Okay. What a shameless bot. Oh, sorry. I thought you were talking about Designer Dave. Right. Well, yeah. So the other thing that I would like to be possible is I would like users of this launcher to be able to configure like a GitHub or some other link to fetch later like updated exes from. That would simplify the process of making sure that everybody's on the same page. So that would be awesome. What do you mean by? No, Balathal's making music, you goofball. I mean, Eidolon's also making music and voice acting and this software. He's a man of many talents. Okay, he's a man of 3 talents so far, as well as programming. More generally speaking, yeah. That guy's gonna be a big help, man. I can already tell you. Might come to that, or require just an asinine amount of reverse engineering, but yeah. So effectively having the source. I know what you mean. All right. I still haven't decided what I want to do for the rest of the stream, to be honest with you guys. I'm kind of leaning towards trying to update Stormborne, but we definitely need to remove the unit limit before we do that. As well as the sprite and bullet limits. Well, at least before it's like ready for release. But I could take a look at the map. Oh. Take a look at the map, not that. Fucking... Oh dear. Oh yeah, of course. Well, you know what? We have the brush palette. So we'll reconstruct the map. The fuck? That's very useful. And by that I mean not. Oh, I guess it was one of those, fancy schmancy and endings. Actually, I have no idea what I managed to do there. Maybe it was, oh yeah, it was the edge of it was probably just like one of these or something. Well, time to give it the old prank. Oh, yeah, I forgot. This one had an insane crash at the beginning of it for no reason. It's okay, I can just set all the AI to neutral or something. Maybe. I don't know if it'll even let me play the map at that point. Yeah. Wow. What a mess. I like how of all things that survived, it was the fucking mud. That is impressive, to be honest. Because I think I revisited this at some point not so long ago, actually. In an attempt to fix up some parts of the tile set. Oh, man. I just put the wrong fucking height level over there. It's going to be a long, drawn-out process. I can already tell you. Okay. Let's see. area is taken care of. Oh, cool. Epic. Long as the performance is all right, I don't have any particular input there. Because if not, it's unfortunately back to the fucking drawing board. I think maybe this was just an error before. TBH. This is Stormborne, real old map. Just running through it now and trying to fix up all the tiles. There's some interest that I have in actually updating it, but unfortunately, that looks like it might take a while. Yeah, but it was almost an entire year ago. We are coming up on the project's anniversary, you know. Looking into spending some 30 minutes on a map a day. Yeah, that's honestly a great way to do anything. You probably already figured it out if you're coming into it with that kind of, shall we say, wisdom. But I would say, for sure, as long as you put in some time trying to make something, you're bound to eventually improve your skills, right? So my biggest set of advice for you, or my, whatever you want to call that, is definitely to make sure that you get a decent amount of practice in, more or less. And you can worry about whatever's missing later on. I mean, you seem to have a decent enough understanding of how the game itself works. I don't think that you'll go down the same unfortunate path that many other people have gone down, where they focus on making a bunch of pre-play shit. I hate Asian names. Reasonable statements from Veek. No, I know. We're fucking with you, man. Talk to the campaign designers, dude. If your focus is mostly to make melee content, which is certainly more than welcome, I would spend a decent chunk of time opening up the existing maps for Hydra, or even other like actual melee maps, if you can find unprotected versions of them. A lot of those Koreans decided to protect their maps so nobody else could open them, or maybe it wasn't the map makers themselves, but somebody did down the line. So it's hard for people to use them as learning materials since they can barely fucking open them. I would say symmetrical is also generally fairly limiting, but as much as you may have an aversion to it, it's really useful for getting the ground rules of what a melee map generally is accepted to be. And once you kind of establish a sense for how well certain concepts or experiments end up working, what you can do is you can take it a step further and say, all right, now I've got a couple of symmetrical maps under my belt and I kind of know where they went right and where they went wrong, sort of the anatomy of a map or the characteristics of a map that end up being the most useful. I can take some time and make an asymmetrical map that breaks some rules, but does so in an intelligent manner, if that makes any sense. It's like you're trying to buck the trend, but also know why it's a trend to begin with. So I still think there's some value in that approach, but it is something that requires a little bit of knowledge as far as figuring out what's like. It's basically there as a learning experience for you as a budding melee map maker. Try and figure out what exactly the reasoning is behind a certain design convention. So you're not trying to reinvent the wheel. You're trying to learn why the wheel works, and then try to learn how you might be able to edit the wheel to make it more interesting for what you're looking for. Of course, if you decide, hey, you just want to make some maps and you don't really want them to be symmetrical, that's also fine. But that's one of the things that I learned, because I came from not making symmetrical maps whatsoever. Like, most of my maps were like Consecrate or the other maps that I've made, or like the maps that Kian has made. And recently-ish, I've dabbled in melee map making because, for one, it's much quicker to get from concept to something playable. You're literally taking the work and having it, because when you do it for one half of the map, you've done it for the other half. For another, it's significantly more, I would say, for lack of a better word, it's like more approachable. You just have a better sense of like what a certain thing is going to be like, because you've experienced it on one half of the map. If that makes any sense. Yeah, that should be fine. I was actually just telling people, like when Balefell made a 3v3 map, I think he had it at 128 or 160 or something. And I don't think, at least in Hydra's case, which presumably you'd be making maps for Hydra, I don't think it should be smaller than 160 by 160. 192 by 192 is definitely a healthy size, and you should be able to get a lot of mileage out of a map that's in that realm. So for sure, give it a crack, see what you like. Yeah, so like the Mothership is that really massive 8-player map that Veek made on the Space Tile set. So if you remember how big that map was, that's I forget what the percentage of an increase is over 192 by 192, but it's like the next major size up, if you will. I think the weakest points of the map, if I can remember anything correctly about it anyway, I would say the middle feels lacking. And it feels really hard to expand past your natural as pretty much every player, because it's so hard to get a defend, like, unless you go for an island or something, which is expensive to your tech path. So I wouldn't be doing it very often. So down here in the like bottom leftish of your SCM draft, you should see a section that says terrain symmetry. So by default, it's set to none. You can scroll down for mirror, which gives you... I'll go towards the middle of the map here. So you'll notice that it really only shows up when I've got a brush enabled. But you see how it's being mirrored on the right? So that's mirror X. Mirror Y mirrors it on the bottom left. And then mirror XY mirrors it on the bottom right. So if you, for example, like what Vika's talking about is XY symmetry. I would generally go for XY. In the past, I've experimented with some really wacky ones where I would do like XY symmetry or four-way symmetry and rotational. You can go down a tile rotation or isom rotation. I would go like four-way rotational symmetry for the mains and naturals, and then I would do XY or XX for the northern parts of it or whatever. It ended up being pretty interesting, but definitely requires some getting used to. Like I'm not fully immersed in the concept right now, unfortunately. So. Yeah. Your first couple times when you're messing around with this stuff is really just going to be getting used to like how the tools even work in the first place. All right, I want to make sure I got everything in the top half here. Thankfully, it's only the Hydra that need to be redone. Welcome back, Bailithal. Yeah, man, we all started somewhere. Yeah, I was saying the same thing to you. I didn't know you were gone, but I was like, I would watch the shit out of that. What do you mean by different doodad? Like, is it giving you different tile decals or whatever? Because that's expected. Maybe you could put a screenshot somewhere in Newbor or something. Newbor is where we go for technical advice, by the way. If you have any technical questions, that's the place to go. See in the upper left? Upper top of the place, those doodads are not there. Now I don't see any doodads. So doodads are placed in their own layer. If you're talking about like a visual, like there's different versions of the wall, that's expected. Because there's basically different sets of the wall tile that will behave differently depending on what's going on with them. So like there's just a randomization that goes on. So you see how like if I look at this map, for example, I'm going to find a good example here. Wow, that's an ugly looking ramp. So a really obvious example is the mud. So these are mud tiles, and the edge only comes in two varieties. It's like this sloped out one, and then this this more compact one that looks kind of like it's been mashed together. So these are the only two varieties for mud. You'll see that it's mirrored on the other side as well. So if I just paint a bunch of mud, you'll notice that sometimes I'll get two of the same, and sometimes I'll get one and one of the other next to each other. That's the randomizer. So the randomizer is giving you a couple of different ones. That's not going to be perfectly symmetrical. Blizzard is not always known for making their tiles symmetrical in terms of the gameplay impact, but generally speaking, all of the tiles you'll see are close enough that it doesn't matter that much. It's not a huge imbalance. So, for example, if you wanted it to be 100% identical, after you were done painting everything, you would have to manually go back in and mess around with it. But presumably that's not a deal breaker for you. But yeah, you'll see me copy and paste stuff all the time. Hey, that's not what I wanted. Oh, gotta go find... Yeah, there you go. I don't think I modified the installation tile set itself. So yeah, if he wanted to make use of those tiles, he would have to do them all manually. I can look into adding actual macro support for that tile set, but I would imagine it's seldom used. That doesn't happen too often, but it has been known to occur, so. I would just say make sure you're using the latest version, but even that can't guarantee that you're not going to get destroyed at some point. Sometimes at many points. Man, I've still got a little ways to go over here, man. Holy moly. See you later, Veek. Yeah, man. It's a new skill you're learning. Oh, cool. I left myself little hints. It's pretty epic. There was definitely some sort of upper blend over here, but I don't remember what it was. It also goes without saying, just for your own sanity more than anything, you should probably spend a bit of time working with the regular tile sets, or like basically not doing what I'm doing right now. What I always do, or what I'm trying to do lately, I try to basically gray box the map idea. So I try to come up with some sort of plan for the map where I use like the regular tiles that I can paint a little bit easier, a little bit more immediately with the isometric tools and stuff. I try to do that before I do anything else, because that will give me way more accurate information, we'll say, about what's going down. Like, what does this map need? How are the battles going to play out? Like, I try to map that out in my head, like imagine where things are going to go. And that sort of approach gives me a lot more information, or a lot more like I can already start to make balance changes or whatever in my head before I get to the point where I actively need to go a certain approach and tear out a bunch of tiles or whatever. Whereas if I were trying to make balance changes to a map after I had already done all of the visuals, it would take a lot longer, right? Right. So this is another thing that you're going to learn, certain associations that are probably, like, they're so ingrained in my head that it's almost something that, like, it's definitely something I would completely forget about to try to tell somebody. So remember when I was talking about mud earlier and I was painting some mud as a demonstration? And how, like, you see how there's jungle over here or there's rocky ground and the mud overrides that stuff. The reason being is that certain tiles blend with only other tiles by default. So temple, for example, by default, only blends with jungle. So the jungle is the green grass in this case. So the temple tile here only blends with jungle by default. Now that doesn't stop me from putting putting temple on dirt, for example. It means that I have to go into the tile set and add a new tile set file, like add new tile set graphics and paint the data for them and stuff. And I go through and do all that stuff, and then put it, like, I can put temple on top of temple. I can create these tiles that stack. I specifically created tiles like these that blend the northern edge of the temple with the southern edge of raised jungle, so that we would have raised jungle temple blends, so that I could seal that off. I did the same thing over here with the like, none of this stuff is possible right out of the box in the editor. So you're absolutely right. It would definitely be much more reasonable if you could go in and say, I want to put some ruins on top of the temple, and just be able to do that instead of having to go and add it to the tile set, make the graphic, and then put it in there. I 100% agree. Unfortunately, Blizzard did not give a fuck about that idea. At least that never occurred to them. So they just made it so that certain tiles are permanently associated with other tiles. So, for example, high dirt can't by default blend with jungle. I had to manually go in and make the tiles for that. The same way for, like, the temple blending with dirt. So it looks probably, like, to the average person who plays this map, it doesn't actually look that different. Like, it looks kind of seamless. Like, all of the high dirt that is stacked on top of existing high dirt, that's all done through customized. That's why I'm placing it manually right now, because it's all custom tiles. It doesn't exist out of the box. It's pretty dumb that it doesn't exist out of the box, but unfortunately, we can't do too much about that ourselves. This must mean I messed up and also defined some other tiles as the wrong ones. Maybe up here? No, that wasn't it. Okay. Everything else appears to be on point. Oh, never mind. As soon as I open my mouth, Ultralisks flies in it with 1,000,000 Cyprians. Oh, wait. Oh. What even is that one? Is it this? Oh, yeah, I guess so. Not quite sure if that's what we were looking for, but I'll see what I can do. Maybe I can work with it. All right, I'll fix that up later. But for now, it's looking all right. What am I using to bring in different tiles? Okay, so basically, if you're talking about like adding new tiles in, or what do you mean? Are you talking about like when I'm copying and pasting them or whatever? I have the brush palette for the jungle brush in here that I've organized. This is downloadable for anybody in the Hydra area. Nice screenshot. So basically, I have this, and I'll click like, oh, I want to place this one now, or this one. So this is accessible in Windows Brush Palette. When you open that up, it will be blank at first, and then you can hit load, and you can grab any files that you have. I didn't make one for the installation tile set, because honestly, I didn't think anybody would actually use that one. But basically, the idea would be that for custom tiles, like the stacked high dirt or whatever, I create these brushes. I haven't... It's certainly not exhaustive. There's a ton of custom tiles in the jungle tile set. So I haven't gotten everything, but a large portion of them are there. And that's basically what I've focused on, if that makes any sense. Focused on. For everything else, I have what's called the tile set index, which lets me pick out precise tiles. So if I don't have something in the brush, like I don't have all of these blends or the cliff stacking stuff, I'll just go into the stuff like this. I'll select some. I'll figure out like, oh, I just need the topmost tile over here, or like say I'm like when I was up here just grabbing the baseline of these tiles, I could find it in the brush, place it, copy and paste it, and then get ready to put it down, or I could just grab it from the index, which is generally speaking quicker, and I just grab it like that, click and drag. So I use a combination of both of those, and that just tends to be how it goes. So this is my next target here, this general area. And then I guess I'll move on to Rainer's area, and that'll be the last area in that whole region down there. I can quickly throw a ramp over there, though. Yeah. Well, it's kind of hard to see shit with all the splotches, but yeah. I am indeed doing that. And with enough time, it will be operational. Right now, I'm just taking it bit by bit, but I'm sure eventually we'll grab it. Also, a useful tool for you if you ever want to change the contents of your brush, if you're painting an isometric or rectangular brush, rather than finding, like say I want to paint some mud tiles up here for some reason, right? So you can see how I can go down to the bottom left and select mud and then left click to paint. Or I can find an example of mud somewhere like here, and if I control left click, it will do the same thing. So I'm going to do it over here, and you'll see down here it says Jungle World High Dirt at the bottom. Well, now I can control left click and it'll change to mud. If I control up over here, it'll say unknown because it's a new tile and it doesn't have any support for naming those. But that's like one way for you to tell what's going on. And you can quickly change what you're trying to paint. It ends up being pretty useful for updating stuff relatively quickly speaking. Quick like. So basically what happened with this was I went in a while ago. So in the map itself, these tiles are still there. I just haven't gotten around to I didn't like import the what's it called? I haven't actually grabbed the tile set as to use as a reference or anything. So in this case, it's because I went into the tile set itself and removed the old tiles and added new ones. So because I removed the old ones, they're no longer there at all. The game finds null tiles there, or the editor finds null tiles there and puts them there. That's the only reason. So that doesn't happen very often. I try to make it a point to not do that very often because obviously it's quite destructive, not only for me, but for anybody else who's used those tiles in their own maps. Like when I finished the changeover, the makeover that I made for the high dirt, I went in and manually fixed not only all my maps, but also everybody else's maps so that they wouldn't have to deal with that themselves. Because I could imagine that would be quite demoralizing if they just woke up one day and went to edit their map after updating Hydra and were like, oh, all my shit's fucked. Like, it's not exactly what I'm looking to do to them. Definitely not what I was hoping to accomplish at any point. Yeah, exactly. I mean, that's one way to do it. It's like, if I really don't like somebody's map, I might just accidentally delete all the tiles they use and have them remake it. Seems like a rather extreme option, but you know. Alright, so I'm going to go ahead and I'll hold on Tassidar's lovely base, just out of view of all of those black splotches. And I will return when I have the opportunity to do so, because I'm going to use the bathroom. If I remake tiles and I haven't released them yet, you're fucked. No, not really. It's so it's more like what I can re-import over the same import file path. Like I can do something like oops, wrong one. All right, so what I can do is like I can say I want to update the visuals of one of these tiles. So I can do that without removing the tile's spot in the tile set. So it's more, in order to destroy the tiles and make them null, it's more than just updating the tiles or remaking the tiles. It's actually giving them a different position in the tile set. If that makes any sense. So I'm changing the position in the tile set, and that's why the editor doesn't know to find that tile anymore. So it looks up at the old ID, which is now null because I recycled it, and it says, oh, this tile is null, so put it null here, instead of using the new tile. There's no way for us to automatically update all the maps to use the new lookup, unfortunately. That would be the optimal solution, because then you wouldn't have to do any replacement. Like, I wouldn't have to do anything that I've done here. I would have just defined, like, switch this tile with this tile, you know, something like that. Right, yeah. So when you rearrange the tiles themselves in the tile set, that's when the issues crop up. Now, that's not really the end of the world anyway, because like I said, I can just... If I've done that to somebody, I'd fix their map, unless they've already fixed the map. In which case, I just apologize. But, yeah, I would... if there was a point where you were, like, using tiles... It doesn't happen very often that I'm replacing entire things. Like, I think it might happen in Desert, but I don't think anybody's actually used the Desert, so... That shouldn't happen. But yeah. Yeah, making a pointer to a particular tile, it would be great. It would definitely save me a lot of effort. And it's really menial labor. Like, this isn't a super creative job here. What I'm doing is not like something that requires a lot of brain power to do. It's just, I guess I'll click this and click that. Like, it's very menial. So if we could automate it, that would be awesome. But that would require having SEM draft source, and we don't have that, so... Kian's used Desert, but he hasn't used the tiles that I'm talking about. iQuare has probably used the tiles I'm talking about, but in addition to updating the tiles to make them look better and function better, I'm also going to be shipping a brush palette that will make it much faster to place all of the cliffs in the first place. So hopefully whatever work he does have to redo is not so bad that it's going to be terrible. And I don't even know if I need to rearrange his tiles. So, yeah. Yeah, it's definitely missing. It's only got the north-facing ramps for the regular dirt. It doesn't have it for compound or sandy sunken pit. I'm going to need those because I'm going to be working with Desert pretty soon. So that will probably change, I imagine. In fact, Desert might be the one that gets its ramps next after Space. So I'm looking forward to seeing that. Anyway, I really got to use the bathroom, so BRB. I have returned. Yeah, it's not going to be a Hydra thing that uses desert. I intend to release a small project before 2020. Rather, before 2020 is over. Sorry, I didn't fucking finish my sentence as is customary. Burp. Save some metadata. Let's just say the remake of Inconsummate will be much better, and I look forward to delivering it to all of y'all. Unfortunately, I was not quite able to accomplish what I was hoping to accomplish with the original version there. Oh yeah, I've got like 3 or 4 sequels already planned, like written in terms of the narratives and stuff, and where the characters go and stuff. So like I know everything there is to know about the project per se, but it's one of those things where I just haven't gotten around to continuing it. Mostly I got lost working on Hydra, but I'm glad I did, because even though it's not led to completed projects actually being shipped, because do voice acting, yeah. Honestly, like that was one of the unexpected but very welcome surprises when it came to all of this stuff. Is like how many people are interested in doing voice acting for projects like that. Like people, it's a feeling that I have not actually. Well, not really a feeling as much as like like the idea seems to be that people would be interested in being a part of the project. So they would be like, "Oh, sure, I'll voice act." Like if that's what you need. Like so many people are interested just in like being a part of it. You know what I mean? Whereas I had to hunt down people and like, you know, it was a little bit more like pulling teeth in the older days. So I'm just glad that I have a community that is interested in doing the voice acting more or less for free. Oh, okay. I guess that's actually this or something like it. Honestly, I've realized somewhat recently, I'm actually very highly specialized as a voice actor. I'm not particularly grand at it. It's just that I've like worked within the same environment for a very long time, if that makes any sense. So it's like I know how to phrase certain things or present certain things. And that's why or how I've managed to do it the way that I've been able to do it. It's really weird though. All right, I know there was... Oh, maybe I just pasted that over. Yeah, it looks like it. I was going to say, I know there was another ramp over there. Yeah, I'm also bad at that, but I mostly just brute force it. Like, I've been doing it for so long that I can kind of get away with it based on some tricks, some gimmicks, if you will. I definitely need to focus on trying to establish some sort of different tone. But you can pretty much tell, oh, this is one of Pronogo's 6,000 voices for this project. You know what I mean? Like it's not easy to completely obfuscate that, right? And it's not even really necessarily something that you should be doing. Like, you probably shouldn't be doing 100 voices for one project. You know what I mean? Like, that probably shouldn't be your responsibility, because it is very, very challenging to do something like that. And generally speaking, it's just not even what you need to worry about. Like, I don't know how else to explain it exactly, but oh, does The Simpsons have like a very small voice cast or something? I haven't watched it really. I've watched it a little bit here and there. Not very well versed with them. Wow. Well, in that case, I just need to get good, and that's fine by me. If it apparently can be done, you know. It's kind of weird looking back at this level now. There's a lot of decisions. I guess it's a good thing. There's a lot of decisions that I made level design wise that I definitely wouldn't make now. Once I finish reconstructing the level as it is, I'm going to be doing some. I got to figure out exactly what I plan on doing for the update. Obviously, one of the first things I'm going to be doing is adding more swamp and stuff. Replacing the existing water with stuff like that. Oh, I remember hearing about that. How embarrassing. Though I guess it's more embarrassing if he fucking conceded, but it was probably something out of his control, if I had to guess. How did I manage that one? I'm thinking maybe it actually extended further out. So something like this. Yeah. Figured it was something like that. Yeah, of course. Just like many other examples of political correctness run mad, run crazy. Gone sexual. Gone wrong. Just an example of people being a little too quick with their trigger fingers. Which is a shame, because it certainly didn't have to be that way. I think they still could have gotten all of the fucking social progress that they wanted, and probably much more if they had just been a little bit more fair with their critiques. A little bit more intelligible, perhaps. All right, nice. Oh, wait. No, I feel like a lot of people have co-opted the movement, which may have had some honest intentions, or like even sound critiques. It's clearly, in my opinion anyway, been co-opted at this point, to the point where they want to be the ones on top. They feel like they've weathered the storm enough that they can be the ones uh, who take power now, and it's fine for them to not only take power but use that aggressively against those who used to have power. I'm not sure why rules for thee but not for me ever took off. Really seems intellectually lazy, but I guess that's kind of par for the course. All right, now we only have this giant little quadrant over here to smack. Oh, cool. SI got back to me about something. That's fucking incredible. I think, yeah. So I think you have to like rescue a Hydra den or something. Somebody else was complaining about that. That I saw. But I don't actually know. I only worked on the last mission. I think I did some terrain for one of the other maps, but yeah, I definitely did terrain for at least one other map, but I honestly couldn't tell you much about the project. It's certainly not mine. I think you have to like run and find it somewhere in some deep dark recess. SI said, I was asking him about adding brand new tile sets to the game so that we would have. So, like, one of the things you might have noticed is all of the maps that are set at night are in the same tile set. What I would like to be able to do is basically create a daytime and nighttime version of every tile set, including like daytime Shakuras and stuff like that. Like daytime Twilight, I guess is the tile set name. That's like the blue one. I think that would be really neat. So that and it would also be neat to have like a brand new tile set as far as like actually completely custom and never before seen shit. Though I have no idea how feasible that would be. It would definitely take quite a bit of work in that respect. But in theory, SI says that it is possible. It's hard coded. It shouldn't be possible or shouldn't be too difficult to fix. I don't know what he'll have to do on his end to set it up though. And then like I'm hoping that he can get most of the work, like whatever work that needs to be done on the map editor's side, I'm hoping he can get that work done, and then we can parlay that into getting like we can just basically having him set it up for us so that it's ready for whenever we're all set. You know what I mean? That would be the most ideal scenario, I think. But I don't know how actually feasible that approach would be. So that's where we left off in our conversation. Though maybe he's already responded. I haven't checked. Why I oughta actually check in a moment. I'm placing tiles, okay? It's very important. Nah, nothing yet. Looks like he's offline for the day. After I think I'm done, I'm going to turn off the units. Rather, display the units as off so that I can double check that I got everything. I'm sure there's some things like mysteriously missing tiles or whatever that are in need of being fixed, but I know. I wish he would. I'm sure he just considers it like a cry out of entitlement, though. Like, these motherfuckers, ungrateful pieces of shit. I make this map editor. It's the best map editor ever made. And they have the nerve to complain. I wish I could just recall accurately what his reasoning originally was when I asked him why we didn't have source access, but I honestly can't remember. I don't want to put words in the guy's mouth, so I'm sure at some point I'll figure out whatever it was originally. Well, we don't really know exactly what the reason is. Well, that's what I think he said, but again, I hesitate to confirm that because I honestly could just be misremembering, and it could have been something else entirely. But if that's the case, it's almost certainly Blizzard code. I can't imagine that he has that though, unless he's like had access to that source code for a very long time, and even then, I don't think it would be something he would be legally culpable for. You know what I mean? But he is under NDA with Blizzard, so maybe that has changed with the remaster. Yeah, if it could accurately reverse engineer stuff, that would be epic. No kidding. I mean, just that alone would be an insane boon. Blizzard only cares about mods if they, for a second, think that they can harm their bottom line, which would basically be like, are you selling your content? Technically, even using SCM draft is against the end user license agreement, but nobody would uphold that, and Blizzard themselves have said that you should use SCM draft. So at this point, it definitely wouldn't hold up in court. But no, in my very long-winded experience, they haven't ever. They have cease and desisted certain things, like there have been mods that have been. You just receive a cease and desist letter, but it hasn't happened to anybody that I know. I just know that it has happened to some people. I would imagine anyway that it's very uncommon. Blizzard are known for doing that, but the point at which they did that was so long ago that I imagine most people can't even remember it. Yeah, there was a guy who had the source code. He just decided that Blizzard was better off with it. So the mod was supposed to be a conversion of where they took Starcraft, they made Starcraft models and put them into Warcraft 3. I think it was called Project Revolution. Not 100% sure on the details of the name, but I'm pretty sure that's what it was. There was also a reverse one where they took Warcraft sprites from Warcraft 2, I think, and stuffed them into Starcraft 1. Oh, I need the other ones. But I'm pretty sure the Warcraft mod was the one that was getting cease and desisted, because that was the one that was like that was back when Warcraft 3 was like very recent in terms of when it launched. So Blizzard were particularly anal about keeping everything under wraps. Well, I mean, technically, if you bother to go through everything, yes, we have the source code, but the amount of man hours required to reverse engineer the entire game is, for lack of a better term, insurmountable. Oh, as in legally? Would they do anything? I mean, I'm not sure if the process of going into the source code and like maybe it's actually fine, or not fine, but maybe it's legal, I should say. I honestly don't 100% know the legality of it. But like I said, Blizzard has never, to my knowledge anyway, fucked with people who were doing reverse engineering. Yeah, distributing the source material. The code might also have IP rights associated with it, but I'm not a lawyer. I'm not even like a legal expert, or it's not even something that's like super interesting to me. So I'm flying completely blind when I provide information on this. Now, whether or not you could get away with saying that by redoing all of the code yourself, you are exempt from copyright infringement, potentially a legally arguable case, I imagine. Again, all imagination here, just riffing, but might be the case just by virtue of you not needing to. You just say, well, I've transformed the code into my own code by way of reverse engineering. And maybe you could get away with something like that. I would imagine you stand a better chance anyway that way. Yeah, but in theory, we paid for the game. So if you were to sell your copy of Starcraft, like, if you were to make money and it's not reselling a copy of Starcraft, that would be the infringement. Because it wasn't, like, it's not like you sold a copy of your game, like, reselling it. That's not what happened. What happened was you simply repackaged it and sold it as if it was your own product. Yeah, well, it's definitely a confusing, muddled mess. I'll give it to you that. Though in this case, it's rather cut and dry. It's just a matter of, like, knowing what you can and can't be held accountable for, more or less. But I wouldn't say that there's any legal concern that you would have to worry about when it comes to this sort of thing. Purely on the basis of it just not being particularly interesting. Like, Blizzard doesn't... for one, they probably don't even know, like, nobody within Blizzard, or very few people, I imagine, within Blizzard, have any knowledge of who we are as a community or who individuals among this community are. So suffice it to say, the idea that there would be any concern over something of that nature is... it's just not something that would be very likely to be a problem. Yeah, so there are trademarks within the game, and those are, like, trademarks are, like, all of the audio and visual stuff is trademarked, but also there are intellectual trademarks over the characters themselves. Well, I'm not sure. Like, again, there's a reasonable expectation that maybe you're dealing with some sort of change in the ownership on the basis that it's significantly different than the original content. Like, it's transformative, right? So, like, this is how parodies get around it, because they're transforming the original content. Well, the content that wasn't theirs originally, they transform it to become original. So even if it's derivative or based on the original content or whatever, it still ends up being... oh shit, did I fuck this entire thing up? Of course I did. Classic. It's just that there's a lot of legal loopholes that you might be able to get away with using, more or less. So you might have seen, like, fair use or some sort of thing like that used as a cop-out on YouTube videos before, or in the past. And that's because, like, they're trying to legally cover their ass by saying, hey, this content is fair use, because it's representative of, like, I've transformed the content from the original. Like, it basically, it doesn't serve as a competition or a competitor to the original video. Like, if they're using somebody else's video content, if they're only using a few clips from that video content, it's hard to argue that that is a replacement for the original video, right? Because if people want to watch the original video, they wouldn't watch just a few clips. That's one argument that you can have against that particular idea. So if you were making a game and a character within your game, or even a story like a movie or something like that, a character within your story is named Tassadar, if he's like, basically, if he's not a Protoss, right? If he's not like a futuristic alien that has basically, if he's not a carbon copy of Tassadar, you could argue that the name itself maybe is a coincidence or is inspired by, but it's not the actual character Tassadar. So just using the name, you might be able to get away with just using the name, basically, is what that means. So it's just shit for lawyers to argue about while they take your money, basically. That's how I would conceptualize it. No. What's up, Lucklow Gelms? How are you, dude? No idea how to say your name, by the way. Sorry that I butchered it. That might actually be an I. Maybe it's Lucio. A dog exists outside. I thought you guys should know that. Ah, shit. All right. Just about done here, thankfully, because I am out of patience, to be honest. Herculean effort not to lose my brain while trying to... do all this. Yeah, the whole sue you into bankruptcy even if you win the lawsuit thing is pretty despicable. Really wish that wasn't the case. Good time for you to stream making music? Well, even if I wasn't able to catch it live, I would definitely be watching the VOD, but that's just because my schedule is so crazy that I'm pretty much always working on something. I would say a good time... Good time to stream making music. I guess just after my mod streams, if you wanted. I mean, for one, wouldn't split the audience as much. Though I don't really care. I mean, I'm here all day, every day. The audience itself is not going to control that, but more for your sake. I don't know. Just play around with whatever is good for you, I think. But usually my mod streams are pretty early in the day, like before you even wake up, so the timing there probably won't impact things too much. Holy shit. I think we're done with the redo. The makeover. All right. Can't believe it was quite so arduous. Well, I can believe it. Let's be real here. All right, have a enjoyable cry, you fuck. Thanks for hanging out. Dude, what a troll gas. Well, we somehow pulled this together. I'm not really 100% sure how, but... Ta-da! Go ahead and make that the thumbnail of this VOD. All right. Trying to think if there's anything on a smaller scale that I could look into doing before I end the stream. You'd like an alien race where each unit is a specialized but weak unit. Their gimmick is to combine each other into stronger forms. Yeah, sort of like, what's a good term for that? So you know how like Zerg can do that morphing thing, and I've tried to play that up in Hydra. Well, I guess you could consider it a similar kind of thing, like almost like Archon merging, except I would almost imagine it like a nanobot type thing. Like maybe it could be like a machine consciousness. I've had a concept for a machine consciousness race, and it could be something like that where you have these like nano swarms or whatever that sort of merge with each other into larger objects. That could definitely be cool. My main concern would be action economy overload, like too many buttons to press. Also information control, like probably too much. It's very easy for a system like that to become really, like, maybe it's not information overload, but it becomes like a huge information burden in order to learn. And that would be a race that's not only very difficult to play as, like it would be a high complexity race to really like understand the fundamentals of. But I also imagine it would be somewhat difficult to anticipate what they're actually doing. Like, might be a little tough there. Well, it's more than just risk. I think, I in fact think it probably wouldn't be that risky. I mean, you can't build an entire race out of being high risk. You can have some options within that race of that are high risk, but I think making an entire race high risk is probably the wrong thing to do. Yeah. So what I think you'd probably be able to do is customize your production structures such that they would, like, you'd basically set up schematics for different units that you would produce, and they would adjust in their resource costs, but probably not their time costs. Their time costs would probably be standardized in some way. And the resource costs would either increase or decrease depending on the unit complexity. And so you'd customize your schematics at the production structures, and then your units themselves would be able to merge within each other. So like you could still do that APM intensive recombination or split thing if you wanted to customize in the middle of battle, and that could be like an area where they can be very deadly if the person piloting the race and controlling the units and microing them knows what they're doing. Like they can be very adaptable, but it still requires a decent amount of APM to do that. So there's that. That can be like one side of it. And then you can have the other side of like making them more approachable on a macro sense. Well, I can just deploy them already combined in a certain arrangement. And that can be how we can actually make them playable by humans, if that makes any sense. Because then you don't have to do any crazy shit like you produce the unit and then you combine that unit with another unit that you produce, like just to get like a basic or maybe an advanced unit, like a tank. The equivalent of a tank for this race would, in theory, have to be like 2, 3, 4, however many parts of disparate units combined into one. And the action economy of doing that combination, maybe in a correct order, would be pretty crazy. So I would definitely say that you should just be able to set the schematic for this structure to produce this unit or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. So being able to just say, I'm going to build this unit, I think is probably better. Maybe whittling it down to very specific archetypes. Like I've got a ranged archetype, a melee archetype, specialist archetype, an air archetype, maybe a couple more, and then you like a worker archetype or whatever. Yeah. So you can see where it could get out of hand pretty quickly. Like if you had to merge two Archons into another Archon type unit. Like maybe I'll make that in Hydra because again, those units are fairly few and far in between. But I would still hesitate to do that just because of the whole action economy thing. Like, in order to actually get your unit trained, there's many failure points. And it's like, I made this comparison long time ago. It's not a perfect comparison. But it's like if you had to right-click your SCV every single drill until they finished the mineral field. And until they finished mining, and then they bring it back. You know? Like, if you had to manually right-click the mineral field for every SCV. Like, that would be ridiculous. So we clearly want some automation, but we need to make sure that it's the right kind. Like, we want to conceptualize things as an order, and this order includes automatically mining the entire time. You know what I mean? So it's a similar kind of thing. You want to condense and conceptualize everything like that. So the more failure points and or the more moving parts there are in a certain concept when from a gameplay standpoint, the much more difficult it is to grasp as a player and also keep track of all those things. Because you're never just managing an army. You're managing a base, an economy, probably multiple bases, especially in the mid to late game. Especially in Hydra, where I'm planning on having you manage like 10 bases, or at least have, a huge number of bases, even if you're not actively managing all of them. Stuff like that. Like, you're always doing a bunch of other stuff. So having to spend a disproportionate amount of time on your army would mean I would have to make concessions for what you're able to do for your macro mechanics, your base expanding, your economy, your upgrades. I would have to put a lot of gameplay power and systems into the army to justify the returns that you could get, which I think would create too much of a disparate experience playing that race. They would feel almost like a gimmick race instead of it just being one defining factor. Like, the reason why I don't think, for example, Zerg having larva is a gimmick is because while it does fundamentally change a huge amount of how units are produced, it does so in a way that doesn't... It changes how you approach producing units and managing your economy when it comes to producing units, but it doesn't replace anything. It doesn't... it's not like making it so that you're doing something completely different. You're still building more structures to build more units. You're still building workers all the time. You know what I mean? You're balancing it differently. It's definitely a different approach. It's definitely very distinct. But it's not the same thing as needing to spend a lot more time and effort on one concept or on one component of your game, much more so than you have to in another case. Like, Zerg kind of have to spend a lot more APM microing, but I don't think that's as much of a gimmick for them. Like, it's just, that's one of the ways that people have found success. Like, I think you could macro pretty well with a minor balance update and not have to worry about the micro stuff. It's just that people have found so many advantages that they can get from microing. So anyway, I like the idea on a conceptual level. I just don't know exactly how I would implement it. A lot of ideas sound really good on paper, and then you try to implement it, and you're like, oh, fuck. What a mess. Yeah. Well, I think maybe in a world where it's brand new, like if you just deployed Zerg now and there were 3 races that were much more similar to each other, maybe people would react similarly to what we're saying. Like, maybe it's possible to develop a system that is very gimmicky in that sense, but finds its niche. I'm just not really convinced that that's the way to do it. But, like I said, there's all sorts of different ways that you can do stuff. For sure, it's something that would be possible to implement. I just don't exactly know how I would do it is the problem. So, anyway, I think I'm going to go ahead and call it here. Looks like it'll be a little too late for me to record a Brood War Let's Play video, but maybe I'll have a change of heart and record one anyway. For now, I'm going to figure out what I'm having for dinner and chill out for a little bit. So thanks, everybody, for hanging out. I will definitely be on tomorrow at the regularly scheduled time to bring you guys another mod stream where I may decide to work more on Nemesis, or maybe I'll decide to work on Hydra in some other way. Or maybe I'll be doing something completely different. I don't really know. But whatever I decide, I will... well, I guess you'll just have to tune in to find out what I actually decide. And then you can check it out. So, as they say in America, bye.